so before we proceed, here is the newest project. Let me just say that although I have a great time, or had a great time, being in the ACBA tournament, it's definitely a good thing that it's over, man. Because now I can kind of focus on, well, not just that, because I also moved. There was a lot of things happening in my life, but it's just good to kind of come back and just start focusing on dials again. So this is a commission for Darius, and this was. He's actually getting this for a friend, and he wanted something with possibly a fire escape or a balcony or something of that nature. And it's just those are not easy. Anyone who's made them can agree that those aren't easy to make, to suspend the, it's possible, but then what happens is that it just raises the price up because there's a lot of time that's consumed within trying to get that correct. People always want something kind of different, and so what I decided to do was not necessarily go too different in terms of what I'd done before, but just kind of change the scope of it a little bit. So this is about 16 inches across, 14 inches tall, and I think about 11 inches deep, or 10 or 11 inches deep, and it's going to be kind of a live dock type of dial, which I've done before. What I'm going to try to do different with this one is give it a couple, just different touches. For example, I'm going to put a door here, and I think I want to dip that door in, which I've done before, maybe. May want to dip that door in a little bit. Thinking about that, and then I got to do something on that side. But I'm definitely going to put a lot of details into this one in terms of just make it look worn. This is again a live alleyway, so there's going to be some graffiti. There's going to be some stains on the walls and grunginess and dirtiness and so forth and so on. So definitely looking forward to kind of getting back into the groove of it. I have a couple other commissions lined up after this one, so excited to get to those. Some different ideas coming my way. I've been getting hit up for the last couple months, just do you do commissions? And yeah, I do commissions, man, but honestly I pick and choose. I mean, I think, again, I've said this before, and it's kind of a shitty way of looking at it. I guess most people may perceive it that way. Somebody may come at me with an idea, and it's just something that, again, although I'm getting paid to do it, it's just not appealing to me. And I feel like if I'm not going to put the energy behind it, the energy behind it, and it's kind of be something that that I'm, just getting hired to do. And I just don't ever want to just be that, just somebody that does commissions because I need that money, I want that money, and blah, blah, blah. Like, that's not, it's awesome to get some extra bucks, and a lot of it goes back towards the collection. But more than anything, I just want to work on something that I'm happy with, that I'm enjoying, that I enjoy the process. So a lot of times people will hit me up and I'll say, hey, listen, that's not something that I can do. And sometimes you could tell in just the tone that they're just not happy with that answer. So, I apologize to those people. Again, I just want to do things in my life that make me happy, man. Again, I'm not a business, so I'm not, it's not like I have to take on everything because that's what, people, there's a lot of people who make dials. There's some amazing dial makers. Henry is one of my favorite dial makers, and he does commissions. Michael Flash, he's an amazing dial maker. He takes on commissions. My cousin Carmelo, or Lito, as what we call him in the family. Carmelo Calderon, he takes on, he's starting to take on commissions. So there's a lot of people that are doing commissions. So, obviously I guess I pay extra detail, and I kind of rock it out in a way where you can tell there's love behind it. And I know people want to own those pieces, and I definitely get it. But sometimes it's just too out there, and it's just too difficult for me. And if I even take on that commission, the time I'm looking at it and the time I'm going to put into it is going to cost you. So that's what it is, man. If y'all want a commission, hit me up. And I do have like a price list and all that. I'm backed up probably like 3 people after I'm done with this piece. But I expect that I'm going to be going through them pretty quick, as there is nothing else on my calendar really coming up in terms of conventions or, nothing major happening. Just my day-to-day routine now. I'll fall back into the grind of making as many dials as I can. This is phase 1, and so that I'm assuming phase 2, I always forget what order. So I usually start with not too much. Then when it's cut up a little bit, and I guess before I add the black wash to it. So next scene will be just the cut up, sliced up foam. So before I start my morning shift, brought this with me as I may be hanging out at my boy's crib, and I wanted to do a little bit more on this after work. And I also like the lighting in this office, so I said let me take advantage real quick. So I put a vent in here, and I in the past I would just kind of put the space and then just put, you know, this little plastic thing that I put that looks like a vent. What I did is I framed it out instead, and the reason I framed it out is because I don't know, I put a little bit more effort, and so that when I do put the screen, it's gonna kind of block this out a little bit, so you can't see it, but the screen can just lay on here comfortably, and I can just glue it, as opposed to before I would have to try to glue it, and it just kind of, I don't know, I just think this is a more solid build, and it just didn't take that much effort, so I went with this. You know what happens sometimes with foam board is that it comes a little warped, and I always try to find the pieces that are like the straightest. So a lot of times I lay them on the floor, literally at Home Depot. They're on the floor, and I'm just kind of squeezing the middle, and if the middle goes down and touches, and you kind of feel that air coming from underneath. I mean, you don't feel the air, but you know, then it's warped. So I try to keep pulling out boards so that they can you know, be as straight as possible. So in this case, you can see the gap up here. This was a little bit warped, so when I laid this against here, it kind of had like a little bit of a gap. So what I did is I framed up the grate door. So by framing it up, I hid the majority of that gap. You can still see it up here a little bit, but not throughout as before. The other thing that I noticed with this dial, and I noticed it with another dial, is like, you saw how I just kind of lined it up? So now it's lined up perfectly. Well, now it's off the ground a little bit. And sometimes that happens. So what I do is I usually measure it, you know, so I measure it, and I think this is 3, or maybe it's an inch or something like that. Anyway, so I measured it from the top, you know, both, but then when you lay it down together, a lot of times, for whatever reason, it just, you know, as much as you try to measure, sometimes this is what ends up happening. So, but because it's magnetized, it's easy enough to just shift it up real quick. And if you're going to take a shot where you want that to show, then obviously that's not going to show that little gap. So, yeah, man, whoever gets this dial, because I know it's for a friend of Darius's, so I don't know who it is, just keep that in mind, man, that you're able to shift it a little bit depending on the shot. And then, you know, obviously if you're taking a shot that's down here, that's not going to be seen anyway. These dials, you know, a lot of times I feel like I often wonder if I have a vision for when I make the dial, so I often wonder if people kind of approach it that way, you know. So I always kind of look at angles when you take a shot and what have you. And, that determines to me if it's a good dial or not. You know, if it's a dial that has depth and you can kind of see different angles and create different type of shots. That to me makes the picture more amazing. So I always approach it that way. So, you know, for example, one of the things I'm debating right now is I told Darius I was going to put a working door. I don't know if a working door is necessary. I mean, I can just put a indented door and make it like a metal door, and it may look better. The problem with the working door is that they're the only ones that I can buy are kind of house doors, and I've tried them in these alleyways and they look okay. I just don't feel like they you know, I don't know. They just don't, to me, 100% belong. When I think of alleyways, I always think of flatter doors and not the doors that are fancier and kind of have the designs in them. So, you know, so I'm looking at it like that, and you know, and a lot of times people don't even use the door feature. You know what I mean? So it opens up and everything. And I have yet to see somebody really take advantage of that feature. And I've done a bunch of dials and you know, a lot of commissions, and it just doesn't get used a lot. So I'm still debating what I'm gonna do here because I really want to work on a door. The thing with this dial is I'm gonna make it as I'm very very detailed. I feel like flexing on this one. So I'm gonna every little nook and cranny, and I'm being really inspired by dudes like Henry Beltran. I love his work, man. His stuff is real gritty. You know what I mean? And I love that gritty shit. Excuse my language. You know what? Again, my daughter watches these videos, so I'm sorry, honey. I'll be better at my language. But yeah, man, they look really, really good. And so I want to do something like that with this metal door and give it a little bit of that rust feel and the whole nine. So I may just go with what I have in mind. So yeah, so this is where we're at. I'm already like 5 minutes in, and I don't want this video to really be long. So I'm just going to end it. I just want to show this as I'm trying something new for the first time. So what I'm gonna try to do is I have this smaller magnet, a lot smaller than the 1-inch ceramics that I usually use. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually slip it in there so that while it's in there, what I'll do is I'll hot glue gun it in so that, and then I'll put the other one on the opposite one on this end on the other wall, and I'm gonna see how that works. So I just wanted to give you a quick shot of it. So I'm gonna basically fill this in with hot glue, and then I'm hoping that it's gonna work out the way I intended to. You know what? Let me test it real quick. Let's do that. Ooh, that kind of worked, but didn't work because I think it was just the opposite. Okay, so let's see. Yeah. So what it's gonna do, hopefully, is that it'll do that, and that piece I'll put on the other side. And the reason I'm doing it this way is because I think these smaller ones that are a little bit stronger, it may pull them out of the socket if I do it the traditional way. So I'm just gonna try this. So I just wanted to get a quick shot in, so you guys have an idea of how I went about it. All right, peace. So I'm using my Marvel Legends Ultimate Captain America for scale on this newest dial. That I'm pretty much done with the most of the painting. I still have a couple touch-ups. I have that little spot right there that got hit up, and then I have this other little crack here, so I gotta repair those real quick. And actually the acrylic sealer pretty much prevents that from happening. So a lot of people ask me what I use to seal these with, and I generally use a spray acrylic sealer. Other people use Mod Podge. I've never tried that, but I heard it works really well. So yeah, let's go backwards a little bit, because every once in a while it hits me that and not only does it hit me, but I also end up repeating it right here on this channel. But it hits me that people ask questions about the dials. So real quick, I just wanted to go through a quick breakdown, because a lot of what is incorporated in this dial is a lot of what I generally do when I work, when I take on commissions. A lot of the commissions that come my way are generally alleyway related, more city-esque, more urban, which is, again, I feel in my opinion, my specialties is what I really enjoy doing, just because it's been such a big influence on me, living in the city of Boston, and living in literally the city of Boston. So I was always, for whatever reason, taking shortcuts through alleyways versus being on the main street. Probably because of the fact that I'm a graffiti writer, or just my interest in graffiti at a young age, even when I wasn't a writer. And that text sound is annoying, so I'm gonna backtrack and put this phone on silent real quick. So a lot of my influence, I'm able to channel it through to these dioramas. So this is a commission for Darius, who in turn is giving it away as a gift to a good friend. Dimensions, once again, 14 inches tall, 11 inches deep, and I think what, 16 across. So yeah, so let me backtrack a little bit. So one of the questions that I was asked recently is, how is it, and I'm gonna take cap off, how is it that I'm able to kind of, and I don't know if you can obviously see here, but dip back that wall? Like, how do I make the door kind of go in there? So pretty much it's so simple that when I usually tell people, they're like, oh, I act as if I'm gonna cut that piece out. So basically what I do is I cut a doorway out and I pop it out, literally pop it out, and so that it becomes just, and then what I do is I place it back in, the piece that I just popped out, and in placing it back in, I don't place it back in all the way, and the back ends up looking like that, you know, really rough, but no one's looking at the back. So so that's what happens. So it pops out, you know, I pop it back in, and then I generally just glue it using the glue gun, the hot glue gun. So that's kind of the secret of that. And obviously when you turn it around, it looks nice and clean in the front. The bricks, people still ask about bricks, or you know, new subscribers or new people following me, they always ask about bricks. And the bricks are basically, when you start with this foam board, it basically starts off as raw pink. So this pink here is how you end up creating the brick. So as you can see there, I didn't have to create all the bricks through because of the dock that was going to be here. And it's a great example of how it looks before and after. And so it's all about measuring. So for the most part, I measured these, I want to say, is it half an inch? I think they're half an inch this way, and then an inch long. So you know, I measure it, you know, start from here and I notch it up every half inch, and I do the same thing on the other side. I put a ruler and I just cut the blade across, take a pencil to widen it out, and then start putting the lines going this way. So that's pretty much it. A lot of what I use for like vents and so forth is just a mesh that you can get from any art store, from the sewing department. Lately I've been experimenting with like using a little bit of rust. It sucks because I can never really see it on my screen, and then I end up seeing it really well when I transfer it to the computer and in turn to YouTube. But so yeah, so I've just been trying this technique of just using rust coming off of nails or off of anything metal. So I kind of like how that's coming out, and it's gonna give the shot yet another level. I'll always add these, not always, but a lot of times I end up adding these. See, these are the little things that I will add when the budget goes up for commissions. If you want a lower budget, then those are the details you're not going to get, you know, and it makes sense. This time I went with this as just a solid piece. In the past I've magnetized it, but this time I just went solid piece and just glued it together. It's not too thick, so it's pretty easy to store still. Showed you guys earlier that little technique that I was just trying, where I actually put a magnet in here, and it's encased in glue, and so that you don't, the actual magnet is not, you know, and my fear was that these little ones are pretty powerful, and if it was magnet to magnet touching, they were gonna rip, one of them was gonna rip out of the wall on either the wall or the dock. So that one's out raw, this one's not, so it works pretty well. And it was actually, because I put the magnet in the middle, this was a problem, and I kept putting this in and there was a gap. So the good thing is that this will just boom, just kind of put it in place. Yeah, so this is pretty much the finished product. Just have to airbrush it and add graffiti. So that's the last two pieces that I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna do some, and you know, I may add, anyway, I'm gonna do some graffiti on the grate as well as the walls and on the door. Oh, and I create this the same way I create the bricks. It's just a 1/4 inch instead of a 1/2 inch. All the way down and just across, and I usually just dent it, literally punching it using my elbow, anything to indent it and give it that feel of kind of that metal grate. Balsa wood is used here, and one of the reasons I like to use balsa wood is because it adds another dimension to the dial when something's sticking out of the wall, you know. So all of a sudden you get all these real cool corners and edges, and you can take these different type of pictures, and it makes it pop. You know, one of the things I was just thinking before I started recording was how one of the reasons I think I like these dials is because it's so linear, so square. It's not round except usually for the little elbows of, you know, but that's pretty much it. So what happens is that you put these action figures in this setting, and action figures are more, you know, round, more shaped. It's not a square thing, and so that's what makes it pop. You know, one of the things that makes it pop, you know, is the uniqueness of the human body versus the concrete and steel of you know, our cities, our landscapes, or our urban landscapes. So yeah, that popped into my mind. So I'm kind of rambling on. I'm just gonna end it. Doing this new technique. I still haven't mastered it yet, but it's getting better, and it's definitely easier than the old way I was using it, and I'll get into that at some point. And I am Audi 5000. Peace. And this one is officially done. Well, it's been done. I just officially added the graffiti, so now it's really done. I'm gonna do one more thing, and I'm gonna add the name of the owner of this dial. His name is Henry. So I'm gonna just do a quick Henry tag here, and then I'm wrapping it up. I'm putting it ship, or you know, getting it ready to ship. Gotta go to the car. I left the box in the car, and the bubble wrap and all that. So it'll be ready to go. So yeah. So basically, just wanted to just give one more quick view of this, but with the graph included. So just added some on the door, on the grate, a little bit on that wall. I guess you know, I don't really like overfilling it with graph. I just don't want that to take away from the action figure photography. So oh, and I added this piece too. This was actually a suggestion by EJ, who had actually mentioned this before, and it was a great point. I mean, most or all docks have this little bumper so that when the truck hits it, it's not chipping away at the concrete. So it's just this little bumper, and it's made up of rubber, compressed rubber or something like that. So he had mentioned something like that before, and I made a mental note and completely forgot about it. So he mentioned it again as I was putting my progress pics up, and I said, yeah, that's right, I can't forget about that. So one of the reasons I love being part of the Dial Structure group is because of that, because you have people that can be like, hey, listen, you know, maybe you can add this or what have you. So I'm always willing to take suggestions, man. I don't care how good people say I am, man. I am still learning. I will never feel like I know it all, and I'll never approach it that way. I'm always going to approach it with an open mind and willing to hear what people have to say that can make my dials better. So good looking out, EJ. I appreciate it. And that's it. I am out of here. Peace out.